She queried me in the dark, "Does it make you feel special that I saved myself for you?" And I told her no. I watched her face change in the glow of the TV and realized I'd just marched on something I had not even known was holy. I'm 30. My wife, Hannah, is 28. We've been married 6 months, still learning the little rhythms, whose turn it is to take out the trash, what time she likes to start the dishwasher so it hums us to sleep, how she laughs harder at bloopers than at actual sitcoms. We live in a small apartment with creaking floors and a second-hand couch that was old when I bought it, but it's ours. It smells of morning coffee and evening laundry detergent. I didn't think we were doing that poorly. I didn't care about our different backgrounds when we dated. I had been around before, and she hadn't. She told me that she wanted to reserve every intimacy act for marriage. I explained to her that I appreciated every aspect of that. If you know me before Hannah, you'd know that I'm not afraid to admit that I don't appreciate anything that reduces someone's worth to the things they have done or not done with their body. The problem with purity in general, how it's used to shame, to control, that is a big no from me. And I knew she was thinking that way. We talked about it, actually, a lot. I figured we were being reasonable. She makes her own choices. The past is gone. Our marriage is what we create now. I met her at a friend's game night. She was wearing this fuzzy green sweater and pushed her hair behind her ear when she laughed at my terrible jokes. She was warm and comfortable. One of those people who hears you out with her whole face. We went on our second date and walked along a lake lined with maple trees, and she told me that she grew up in a small town where everyone knew everybody and Friday nights were for youth group and football. She mentioned it casually, with a little smile, and I stored it away with she prefers peppermint tea to coffee, and she always hugs a dog when she passes by. We adored slow and steady, the way vines do, quietly at first, and then suddenly covering your whole life. The wedding was quiet and beautiful. Friends, family, a backyard with lights. She danced with her dad. I got tearful during vows I'd written illegibly in a rush the night before, and amazingly enough, they still rang true. We left with sparklers trailing behind us and the smell of buttercream on my shirt. Last night, a Saturday, we'd had movie credits passing by in that slow crawl while sitting with our feet under a blanket. I'd had a few drinks. Nothing wild, just enough to let the filter that I usually have on in case I can be too blunt unwind. The credits were over. The apartment was a quiet cave, the lamp and the dishwasher and city noises outside. Abrupt as a flash of lightning, Hannah exclaimed, "Does it make you feel special that I saved myself for you?" I didn't notice the slight tremble in her voice until later when I replayed it in my head. I only heard the words and assumed she already had the answer to my response. So I responded too hastily. No, not at all. I never felt any way about that kind of thing. I actually really don't like that whole purity thinking. I said it as a confirmation. I love you for you. I'm glad of your choices because they're your choices. I meant to say, you were not a prize to be won, a box to be checked. What she had heard instead, though, I could see it unfold before her eyes, was that something she had loved, something she had thought was a gift, wasn't important to me. Like she had held out her hands and I had swept around them. She grew quiet. She replied, "Oh, okay." She made a tiny half smile, the kind you wear for a picture you don't want to be in. And then she complained about being tired and went off to brush her teeth. I listened to the water running, the faucet creaking, the cabinet door closed. Everything seemed magnified. Then she was. Not cold, precisely. Just a bit farther away. A greater hesitation before she answered me back. A different wariness. We still danced around each other, still did dishes, still watched TV, but I felt the distance between us like air in a small room. It caused me to notice things I had not before. Her hands a little parched from all the washing. Her wedding band, our simple band, spun when she was angry. She started bringing her evening tea into the bedroom to read instead of staying on the sofa with me. I was saying to myself I was just telling the truth. That telling the truth matters. That lying to avoid hurting someone can ruin things underneath. But there is honesty, then there's consideration, and I'd confused the two. A couple of days went on like this, me pretending like everything was normal, her pretending like she wasn't hurt. Wednesday, I came home early. It rained, the kind that makes the street shine like film. I found Hannah at the kitchen table with a wooden box that I had seen before, but never actually asked about. It's one of those cedar boxes with a little metal catch, the kind that you dream old letters live in. She was staring at it like you stare at the ocean when you do not want to go in. "Hey," I I said, laying down my keys. What's that? She traced the rim of the lid with her finger. This? I was going to talk to you. I just did not know how. My stomach dropped out. I don't like the feeling, the second when your body knows that something's wrong before your brain catches up. She lifted her eyes, and my heart slowed. It was not anger I saw. It was sadness. She inhaled and opened the box. There were letters, some flapped with stickers like adolescent stationery. A ring, simple silver with a tiny stone. A creased program from a teen retreat. Wedded flowers in interleaved wax paper. It was cedar and old paper and the faintest whiff of lavender. These are letters that I wrote to my future husband, she said, giggling a little self-consciously over the words. It sounds cheesy now, but when I was 15 it felt hopeful, I guess. Like I was leaving little breadcrumbs of myself out for someone who would someday care about me. I scanned the letters. I felt the first crack in my perception, as when you hear a recorded voice and you think, that's what I sound like. I thought saving herself had been an afterthought, a default. I'm not proud to say it, but I thought she just didn't get around to other relationships. Maybe she was busy or cautious or not interested at all. I had no idea it was such an important decision she had put a lot of thought into, that it had required sacrifice on her part. She picked up the ring and rotated it in her palm. My grandmother gave this to me when I was 16, she said. She was the only one who ever stayed the same. I wasn't really close to certain people, but she was always there. I told her I wanted to make good choices, and she replied, "Make them for you, not because someone tells you to." I wore this ring as a reminder, not of purity as a mandate, of intention, of waiting for someone I trusted. Her grandmother passed away a couple of years later. Hannah did not have to inform me. The way her thumb was holding the ring was telling me. She looked at the letters again and then at me. "When I asked you the other night," she said, "I wasn't asking if you value purity culture. I know where you land on that. I was asking if and whether or not my choice, this specific thing that was hard and personal and tied up with my grandma and my teenage soul, made you feel special." I wanted to hear you say, "Yes, it makes me feel chosen." I could feel my cheeks burning. Shame doesn't always hit like a thunderbolt. Sometimes it's a seeping flood. I had answered an unasked question. And worse, I'd spoken to her the way you dispose of a paper airplane. And reading the letters, reading the ring, reading the life inside that cedar box. How do you stay proud when you realize you've lost something so precious? "That's not what I meant," I said, too late and too weak. "I know what you meant," she said. "I know you love me. I also know it would have meant a great deal to hear you say that something that meant so much to me also meant so much to you." She shoved one of the letters over to me. The paper was crumpled, the ink a little faded. The date in the corner grounded it in a year. I must have been somewhere being 20, not thinking about the woman that I was going to be marrying. I read. It was funny and sweet and truthful. 15-year-old Hannah wrote about the lake by her house, how she hoped she'd marry someone who'd sit by water with her and not say too much. She wrote about her grandma's pancakes. She wrote about wanting to share her whole self with someone when she was ready, not because she was pressured, not because it was expected. She wrote like she was sitting on a summer porch, unafraid and a little chastened. I felt something shift within me. I had chosen this woman. She had chosen me. And I had to mean something she had carried around in her pocket like a rock. Not because I wanted to hurt her, because I wanted to be right. "Do you feel special now?" she asked. She hadn't said it cruelly. She really wanted to know. I looked at her. "Yes," I said, "because it mattered to you. Not because of the idea, but because you chose to share it with me." We sat there in silence, the good kind, for the first time in days. Rain pounded the window like someone persistently telling them to let them in. I paused in the middle of reading the second letter and looked at the camera in my mind. Because that is what this is, sitting here at my table to share with you a tale I wish someone would have shared with me. If you've ever had anything similar to this happen, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if this touched you even a little bit, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. In that time, my voice became thick. "I'm sorry," I told her. I was attempting to be the man who doesn't care about the wrong things. But in forgetting to care about the right things, the things unique to you, I managed to be something else entirely. She leaned across the table and took my hand. Her hand was warm. There were tears on her lashes, hanging there and not falling, like they were unsure. "I don't want you to pretend to believe something you don't," she said. "I don't want that. I just wanted to know that you noticed the 12 years I wore this." It wasn't that I hadn't noticed. It was that I hadn't seen. I talked to her for hours, the kind of talking you do when you know your house is in good shape, but the foundation has a crack no thicker than a human hair, and you'd best get it fixed before it grows. She told me about a college boyfriend who was sweet, but who had a different timeline in mind, and how they had broken up because she didn't want to let go of what seemed important to her. Not because someone had instructed her to wait, but because she wished to. That is a different kind of courage than the kind I valued. I told her that being honest was a shield I employed at times in order to stay from being vulnerable. It is easier to state your thoughts than to hold still with somebody's heart. I asked her what she had been thinking prior. I let her in on the nasty truth nobody wants to hear, that I had figured she had not gone out very often because she was too busy or maybe indifferent, that I had not considered the seriousness of the choice. I could see the hurt lessen a little just because I was naming my blind spot. We left space for both things to be true, that we don't gauge a person's worth on whether they've done this or that, and that saving that part of her life to experience inside of marriage was an active, personal choice on her part. Both can be honored. She then placed the letters in the box. I was going to leave them with you on our wedding night, she smiled bashfully. But then everything felt too large, and I didn't want to cry off my makeup in front of everyone. She replaced the ring too. And I know you don't like the symbolism of this ring, she said quietly. But it is significant to me. Not as a rule. As a reminder that I can decide for myself. Can I do it differently? I asked. She tilted her head. What if it's not a promise to someone ring or a do not do that ring? What if it's a reminder that your choices matter to you and to me ring? And what if I have one too? Not to match, but to remind me to go slow, to speak gently, to not ram the truth at you and forget how to cradle it softly. She regarded me as if I had told her something positive. I'd like that, she replied. We just kept talking. About our values. About what family of the future we might have and how we'd want to raise them to learn about agency and kindness and all the ways individuals are precious beyond their choices. How we talked about words filling rooms and how we'd want ours to be soft but firm. That night, I sat down and wrote my own letter. Not to a future husband. To the girl who wrote hers in hope in a gel pen. I apologized to 15-year-old Hannah that I had not initially known the weight she carried. I told her I loved her big girl self enough to learn. Then I showed it to the real Hannah, and she cried a little and laughed at my over-fastidious lettering, and we placed the letter between the other letters in the cedar box as another page in the same book. It's simple to say I wasn't wrong about the concept. I still think what I think. I still believe that informing individuals their value depends upon a category is destructive. But I was wrong about the man in front of me. I got being principled mixed up with being present. And that's something that I can adjust. A couple of days later, on a sunny Saturday morning, I returned to the lake where we'd had our second date. I'd brought lunch and sat on a plaid blanket with it. Ducks made lines on the water, small and motionless. I produced a ring from my pocket. A simple band I'd bought at the hardware store of all places because I liked how practical it felt. It's not a big thing, I said with a smile. It's just, I want something that will remind me to be mindful of little things. She put it on my finger. The little things are the big things, she said to me, something her grandmother had said to her. We sat in silence for a bit, not having much to say, and I thought about how even my silence could be a gift if I allowed it to be. If you're asking if I'm the jerk for the way that I reacted to her question that night, then yeah, I'd say so. Not necessarily because I was telling the truth, but because I weaponized it and took away the nuance. Honesty without empathy is like putting a picture on a table without a frame. It just falls off the table. This is what I've learned, the lesson that I hope somebody will hear. People are not metaphors for our thoughts. They're human. You can keep your views of high-minded principles and still hold someone's hand as you respect a small bit of personal choice they made out of love. You can condemn the system and still cherish the person who survived it or discovered in it something that was good for them. You can both say, I don't measure you by that, and you can say, thank you for sharing that part of you with me. We headed out of the lake in our shoulders to the sun. That night, I started the dishwasher too early and she laughed and made me turn it off so that we could hear the movie. She leaned into me on the couch, the space removed. The light from her ring caught a gleam and flashed like a small lighthouse for small ships. I carry that photograph with me today, and this new ring on my own hand. A small reminder that love is less about being right and more about being kind in the moment someone needs you to be. And when she asks me again, Because I hope she will, you know, on some night years from now when the couch is new and the floors no longer creak. I'll say, yes, I feel selected. Not because of a title, but because you have selected me.